Some take the road less traveled. Entrepreneurs don't wait for a road, we cut one ourselves. And as a result, we deal with challenges, frustration, pushback, and tons of resistance. You've heard the calm before the storm, where oftentimes, for people like us, it's the storm before the calm. I'm Alex Sharfin, and this is the Momentum Podcast, made for empire builders, game changers, trailblazers, shot takers, record breakers, world makers, and creators of all kinds. Those among us who can't turn it off and don't know why anyone would want to. We challenge complacency, destroy apathy, and we are obsessed with creating momentum so we can roll over bureaucracy and make our greatest contribution. Sure, we pay attention to their rules, but only so that we can bend them, break them, then rewrite them around our own will. We don't accept our destiny, we define it. We don't understand defeat because you only lose if you stop, and we don't know how. While the rest of the world strives for average and clings desperately to the status quo, we are the minority, the few, who are willing to hallucinate there could be a better future. And instead of just daydreaming of what could be, we endure the vulnerability and exposure it takes to make it real. We are the evolutionary hunters, clearly the most important people in the world, because entrepreneurs are the only source of consistent, positive human evolution, and we always will be. I've worked with entrepreneurs at all levels for over 25 years, and one of the things that I can tell you with certainty is that we, throughout our lives, will face massive resistance. We will face people that want to push us down just because we're a reflection of what they're not willing to or too scared to do. We will face challenges in our businesses and what we do for the outcomes we want, the goals we have. We will face resistance when we are doing what we should be doing. And I've heard the phrase before over and over, the calm before the storm. And that's actually something that happens in nature. When there's about to be a storm, things calm down occasionally. They get clear. They get to the point where it doesn't look like anything's going to happen. And then a storm comes. But for entrepreneurs, I want you to know that oftentimes it's the reverse. When you are facing resistance, when you feel like you have things pushing against you, when you feel like the world's conspired against you, oftentimes that is the storm before the calm. That is the storm before you get into momentum. Because for people like us, it's not easy to do what we want to do. See, we get up every day and we challenge the status quo. We go into the future, create a new reality, come back to the present, and insist it becomes real. And when you look at the rest of the world strives for average and clings desperately to the status quo. They don't do what we do. They want it easy. In fact, most of the world wants to retire. The rest of the world calls in sick. Can you imagine ever calling in sick on your business? It'd be like calling in sick on your dreams. We are different from everyone else. And so we have to have different expectations than the rest of the world. So I want you to know, if you're in a period right now where things are tough, where things are frustrating, where there's a lot of irritation and frustration, you've been let down by people you trusted, you've been frustrated by the people around you, you're not getting the momentum you want, you're not making the forward progress, and if it feels like you're at the point where you should quit, I want you to know you're doing exactly what you should be doing. In fact, you're headed in exactly the right direction, and not only should you not think about quitting, but I want you to know you're experiencing the storm before the calm. See, for people like us, that's how it is. We get to this place where it's overwhelming and frustrating and irritating. And then when we break through, that's when we get into momentum. When we finally get the boat out of the water and start hydroplaning, that's when things go forward fast. And if you're facing massive resistance, if things are challenging, if you are feeling like you're being held in place, if you just can't get out of it, I want you to know now is the time to sit down and get clarity, get real, and understand exactly what you're doing this for. Because people like us throughout history have faced resistance and criticism and people telling us we're wrong and people telling us we shouldn't do what we want to do. And I look at some of my friends, I get hate posts on my Facebook ads all the time. I get people who ask me if my backyard is my backyard. I get people who make fun of me, make fun of my family. I have friends who have written best-selling books, and there are people who seem to have dedicated their lives to making their lives miserable. In fact, my friend Chris Walk, who is a member of the Inner Circle with me and wrote the book Chris Beat Cancer, actually I looked him up on Facebook, and I looked at I searched the hashtag Chris Beat Cancer, and there's an individual who it looks like he has dedicated his life to saying bad things about Chris. It's crazy. I mean, there is multiple posts a day where there's a guy who's actually archiving all of the things that he can find that he thinks will show that Chris has done something wrong. And Chris Wark has done everything he can to help people beat cancer like he has. He's written a book. He goes out and speaks. He shares his story in a very transparent way. And here's somebody who is chasing him around, literally chasing him around, trying to point out any inconsistency, any perceived inconsistency he can find. And he literally seems to have dedicated all of his time to it. It's crazy. There's so many posts from one individual, and all of us run into stuff like this. We all run into people, places. We run into things that slow us down. And if you ever feel like they're all adding up at once, that's the time that you need to press forward, because people like us throughout history have faced resistance. Einstein said, great spirits have always encountered violent opposition from mediocre minds. And I want you to remember that when something happens to you, when you get pushed back, when somebody makes fun of you, when somebody comments on your ads, when you experience hate online, when somebody tells you shouldn't try and do what you're doing, when somebody tells you you're trying to do too much, when somebody tells you to sit down, shut up, and stop making everyone else uncomfortable, I want you to know that is your sign that you need to press forward. You're in the storm before the calm. You are on the cusp of momentum, and you're about to get there. Don't let anybody hold you in place, push you down, and make you feel like you cannot create momentum, because you will. If you're ready to understand yourself better, stop limiting behavior, and create more momentum than you ever thought possible, go get a copy of my book. In fact, I'll give it to you for free. Just pay for shipping and handling. Go to freemomentumbook.com and order a copy of the Entrepreneurial Personality Type now. Entrepreneurs have told me it has explained themselves to themselves better than anybody ever has. And I can't wait for you to meet yourself, possibly for the first time. freemomentumbook.com.